Hey guys, my name is Jennifer and I am Jenofeve Designs. Today we're going to switch gears just for a minute. I wanted to make a journal for myself, something that I can write in, something that I can do like brain dump type things in, something that I can express my frustrations, things that are going on in my life, you know, things that I really need to get out of my head. But I don't necessarily want them to be in my traveler's notebooks that I use for work or that I use for memory keeping or anything like that. I just kind of want a place where I can go that I don't have to look at all the time on a regular, you know, on an all-day basis where I'm working in. I don't want to have to read what was upsetting me yesterday. I want it just to be on paper and I want it to be gone. Do you know what I mean? So I wanted to make a journal for that. So basically I could just scribble, not worry about what it looks like, not worrying about it being shown in a video accidentally, none of that. So I just wanted to make one specifically for writing in. And I had a comment when I mentioned that the other day that they didn't know I was a writer. I'm not a writer. Never been an author. Never do I want to be a writer. I just want a place where I can just write down things that I need to get out of my head. Things that I need to quit thinking about. Things that I need to quit worrying about. So I started prepping yesterday for this journal. And I realized I said in the video I was going to do a medium. Well, I had started prepping with the large, and let me show you what I made, because I went ahead and finished it because I didn't want it to be not finished. So I made this one using the large Wanderlust covers. So I used these, the large mini album covers. I didn't use the spine, I just used the two covers because, as you can see, I did a Coptic stitch. Anyway, so I kind of did it, I kind of did it exactly the same way I did this album. This is the Southern Charm. This is the first printable template that I put out there. And this was way back, 4 years ago, 2014. And I did the Coptic stitch then. I think I've shown you guys how to do the Coptic stitch a couple more times since then. But if you'll notice, the reason I brought this out, if you notice, the covers are kind of jagged and rough. I love this look so much. So the covers are really jagged and rough. And I'll show you how I did that. And I was inspired to do that type of cover back then by Marion Smith. And I just love the way it looked. I love the way it feels. I love everything about it. So I wanted to do my covers like that. So I'll link this series of videos in the description box below if you want to check out how I did that. And I did these covers this exact same way. So if you can see, they're jagged like that. So I chose to do it this way because I want to show you another journal that I made. This was something that I made way back in the beginning of my Etsy days. When I first started in Etsy, I did custom journals mostly. That was what my first, those were my first products that I put on Etsy, were custom made journals or handmade journals. And this one, if you can see, it's got some texture and stuff. So I used a texture, what is it called? Modeling paste. To make this beautiful texture, and these were customizable. Back then we had grunge board, and I used that to make these letters. And we actually there was letters. They were by Tim Holtz, and you could get like the whole alphabet, and there would be, the largest one was this size, and I loved it so much. I used them all the time back then. So this is kind of like a mixed media cover, and this too is done with the Coptic stitch, and this is a mixed media journal. So this was one I made as like a prototype, not a prototype. This is one that I made so that I could take pictures and put it on Etsy so that people could see what they were getting. And I love this so much, and I don't want to use it. This is on display in my house. I feel like it's a work of art, so I love the feel of this book so much that I wanted to make this one the same way, because I feel like if I'm not going to write in it if I don't want to pick it up. Does that make sense? So this was from a long time ago, and I just love it. So I wanted to make the covers the same. Although I did not use, like here I used like Prima stencils and stuff. I did not use the stencils here, but I am going to show you how, oh, one more. I got one more book. This one, y'all, can y'all recognize this image? I used to make, this was also a journal that I made on my early Etsy days. And this was my painting. And you all have seen this in my build embellishments now. And this one's a pretty big, same thing, Coptic stitch, same thing with the, I just love that look. I mean, can you all tell that's something I really enjoyed? And this was one that I actually used. I don't know what all I can actually show you in here. Here's where I had some palettes, some traveler's palettes that I put actually in my journal. Oh, cute. I use this for work as well. So this was a watercolor palette. I don't know why I put it on craft. Oh, just because that's the way it was, the journal was set up here. Goodness. But yeah, I use this a lot. And like this was my very first YouTube video, I think was in 2014, and I had to go about it such a random way back then, so I had instructions for myself. My very first YouTube videos right there, January 9th, 2014. Goodness. Anyway, so same thing. Oh, my whole full set of Derwent ink tints blocks. I swatched them out in here. Anyway, so this journal was actually made, oh, I actually made it in 2013, January 2nd, 2013. But anyway, so I used to sell these, and I just love the feel of these covers, so I wanted to duplicate that. And I love the ragged edges. Again, wanted to duplicate. So I just wanted to show you guys some of the stuff that has inspired me to make this one and the one we're getting ready to make together. So yesterday I was prepping. I made this whole journal here yesterday, and then I was prepping some things for today's. I ran out of time. My son had soccer, and you know, soccer games only last a couple hours, but it seems to be, it takes 5 hours out of our evening for him to have a soccer game. I mean, it's totally worth it. I mean, you know, I love watching him play soccer. It just eats up so much time. So I ran out of time, which is why this video is going up late. But anyway, so it's just got a simple seam binding closure, and I used some coffee dyed, this is just loose leaf paper that my husband and son did for me for Madecon. This was the extra. And I love it so much, so I thought I would use it in this journal. So there's 5 signatures in here. So we're not going to make this one, the one I'm getting ready to record, we're not going to make it just like this. We're going to simplify it a little bit, but it's going to have the same look and feel to it, if that makes sense. So now after all of that explanation, I'm going to get, we're going to do a medium. And I'm just going to get, these are the cover templates for the medium Wanderlust. I'm going to get all 3. It's on page 1 of the medium. And then I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, so here is a piece of, this is like almost like poster board, chipboard, or it's like cereal box chipboard or something like that. So you can use that for this project as well. I just happen to have 12 by 12 sheets of this available to me. So what I've done is I've prepped different stages of this because some of these stages do take a long time to dry. So I have prepped, I've done a little bit of prep beforehand, so we'll be able to move along faster. But I want you guys to be able to make this, so I wanted to show you every step without having to take more than one video. So I'm just going to take my traceable template here. I will also link my templates in the description box below as well if you're interested in checking them out. So I'm just going to lay that down, trace around it, and then I'm going to lay the spine down, and I'm going to trace around it. And then I'm going to lay the second cover down, and I'm going to trace around it. So this chipboard is so thin that you can cut it with your paper trimmer. You can even cut it with your scissors, just regular scissors. You don't need anything super special. Let's take those out of the way. Let me get my paper trimmer. This is a Fiskars heavy duty rotary paper trimmer. I think it's called the Precision paper trimmer. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this down, except I'm going to leave those 3 pieces together. So I'm going to get my scoreboard out, and I'm going to score the spine pieces. I'm going to press pretty hard. And then I'm going to go ahead and prep. Whoops. This is, this mat here is just a non-stick mat, which I used it yesterday and I didn't bother cleaning it up. I had to actually run and take a shower and get ready to go. So I just left everything be. So anyway, so you can see that this chipboard scores beautifully and folds beautifully and is pretty sturdy. But in order to make sure that this thing doesn't fall apart, because we're going to put some, we're going to get it wet and we're going to be painting and we're going to be putting modeling paste and all of that on it, I'm going to use some masking tape on the spine where it's bending. I'm just going to add some masking tape before we go any further, and I'm just going to do it on the outside of the spine. Like this. So that's one thing I love about mixed media projects, is they don't have to be perfect, you know. Before I do that, no, let's go ahead. I'm going to trim the excess off. I need to take the time to clean my mat before it gets too late. I don't know, because is it ever too late to clean your mat? Is it ever past the point of being able to recover and fix it? Okay, so I'm just going to burnish this down really good because I want it to have really good contact with the chipboard. And then I'm going to fold it once again. Oops. Okay, so now it's ready. So you can do, if you wanted to, you could cover this with paper. You could just paint it. There's, you know, plenty of options from this point forward. You can do whatever you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I've got a bowl of water here in this dish, and I've got just a, what is this? I don't even know what this, I just grabbed a brush. This one is Royal and Langnickel, and I don't know. Anyway, I think I got this at Michael's. It was pretty cheap, and it says level 1. I don't know what all that means, but this is the 3/4 inch. It doesn't matter. Just, you could use a foam brush, you could use whatever. And I am using some gesso. This is Liquitex Basic Acrylic Gesso. You can use whatever brand you want. But yesterday when I was doing this, I had put some in one of my plastic recycled whatever, I'll show you in just a second, and I put a wet paper towel over it, and which was great. It was a good thing I did that. And this morning when I woke up, it was completely dry, the paper towel, so I re-wet it. But before I re-wet it, I checked to see if the leftover gesso was any good, and it is. It's still good to use. So I just want to point that out. If you have to walk away from your project, go ahead, spray a paper towel with water and lay it over top of any, you know, acrylic type paint that you have sitting out, and you are good to go. So what we're going to do, I am going to wet my brush a little bit. Matter of fact, I'll just use that. We're going to cover this whole cover the cover with this gesso. It does not have to be a perfect even coat. You can have brush strokes, it doesn't matter. Oops. So I'm going to do this to both the front side and the back side. Oh, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video that I am going to do a secret hidden coupon code in this video. It will be hard to find. It will be worth 50% off of everything in my Etsy shop for, well, today it'll be a late video, so today and tomorrow. The dates will be in the description box below. It's only good with a $10 minimum purchase. It will flash on, it won't flash per se, but it will be hard to see, but it'll come up on the screen somewhere in the video, and it'll be up for a couple minutes. And all you have to do is enter that code into the coupon code area into Etsy, and it will take 50% off. So if you have trouble seeing the code, you may want to watch it on a computer, watch it in HD. It is hard to see on your phone. It's not going to be large, it's not going to be black, it's not going to be, you know, bam, here you can see it. You're going to have to find it. It's supposed to be fun. And if you're not sure if that was the coupon code, go ahead and shoot me a conversation in Etsy, because it does timestamp your conversation, so I know when you sent that conversation. Go ahead and send it to me. Tell me what you think the code is, and if it's correct, then I will honor it, even if it's the next day. I don't always have time to read everything ASAP. Sometimes things get delayed a day or two. But if it's the correct code, I will certainly honor it for you. Also, I do want to tell you that there are no spaces in the code. If it's a combination of letters and numbers, the letters are capitalized. That I can tell you those things, and that's probably all I'm going to tell you. But it's supposed to be fun, so have fun looking for it. If for whatever reason you put in the code and it's correct and it doesn't take your 50% off, let me know. I will check what happened. I will see if it's the right code, and then I will, if it is the right code, then I will reimburse or refund your 50%. Okay, so I only did the one side, but you need to go ahead and put gesso on both sides. And then the next step you want to do is take some scissors and just kind of like take little notches out. Let me put something underneath where you'll be able to see it. What can I use? Can you see if I put some coffee dyed paper? Can you see how I'm just taking notches out? Let me try something else. How about a white sheet? Can you see that better? And you're just basically cutting little notches away. Let me scoot you in. Okay, so you're basically just taking little notches out of your corners. Out of your corners. Out of the edges of your covers. You're just taking and going through and just chipping away at those straight edges. You're basically taking the straight line out of it. And it's just that easy. No special anythings, just your scissors. And since this cardboard is so thin, you don't even need heavy duty scissors. You just use whatever scissors you have. I mean, I have been rounding the corners just a little bit because I think it might look a little weird with, you know, square corners when everything else is so rough looking. Do you know what I mean? There we go. So that's all you have to do to make that fancy edge. And when it's thicker chipboard, you do the same thing. You just notch it out with your scissors. You might need heavier dutier. You might need more heavy duty scissors for that. So, like I said, I've already got some prepared. So here is another set of covers. It's exactly the same size. I've done the same thing with the masking tape. Gessoed it. I've done the edges. For this one, I've already done one side so that make it faster. But I'm going to set this one aside. So you have a couple options here. You could, if you wanted to, you could add like book pages. You could tear pieces of book page and paste those down first. You can use a stencil if you like. I'm going to keep it simple and just use the modeling paste. This is Liquitex flexible modeling paste. There's all kinds of different brands out there, so you use whatever you can get your hands on. And this is not a palette knife. This is what? It looks like a palette knife, but it wasn't advertised as. I think it was a Cricut tool from a long time ago. I might be wrong on that. But I've got a palette knife that looks just like this. It just doesn't have as big of a dip, so I really wanted a big dip. And I also wanted it to be a big surface. So literally all I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in there like icing, and I'm just going to like spread it on here to leave a texture behind. So I'm just going to go through, and I might even hold it up like you're buttering your toast. You know what I mean? This is one of the reasons why I went ahead and prepped ahead of time, because this does take some time to dry. Now, I've done this before in another video where I've done some mixed media where I would put this in like a squeeze tube bottle, and I would write with it and that kind of stuff and do some like detail work with it. That's a lot of fun. I love doing that. But I just haven't had a whole lot of time to create these types of things, and it's really been making me sad, you know? It's like I just have run out of time to do anything for myself. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just making myself some fun, pretty journals using techniques that I love to use but just haven't had any time to use. We should make a mini album covers like this, don't you think? That's kind of what this is. This is a traveler's notebook covers. And then I'm going to put some on the spine. I'm going to be careful not to get it too much on the parts that are going to be bending. So I'm just going to be careful here. Anyway, I just miss doing the artsy stuff. You know, it really does make me happy to do that kind of thing. I'm just going to wipe my palette knife off on a paper towel, or I'm sorry, a towel that I've got sitting next to me, just so it doesn't dry on there. I'm going to put my lid. So you want to do one side at a time, okay? You don't want to go and flip this over. You don't want to try to dry this real fast and flip it over and, you know, do this next part right away. You want to like do one side at a time and let them dry in between. Okay, so a while back, actually, this was probably 3 years, a little over, maybe 3.5, almost 4 years ago, I did a video called DIY Homemade India Ink Spray. I will also link that in the description box below. And this is the exact bottle that we made, the purple that we made in that video. And I was surprised because I haven't used it in a little while. I was surprised that when I went to use it, that it still worked. I used it on this one, and I used it on the back side of this, and I also used it on the other sample that I'm getting ready to pull out that I pre-made. So this is still wet. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this on here while it's still wet. I'm going to be generous with it. Right? And I'm going to let it dry. I actually might add some more. You see how it brings out that cool texture? So you can take your heat gun, your heat tool to it and help speed it along. But the best thing to do is to you might want to do actually a little bit of both. Take your heat gun to it for a little while and then set it aside to dry even more thoroughly. But the thicker you put that modeling paste on, the longer it's going to take to dry. So I'm going to dry mine just a little bit to where it's dry to the touch. Not so much to where you can put pressure on it or anything, but I'm going to dry it a little bit and then I'll be right back. Okay, whoa, what was that noise? Oh, my smoke detector, I think, needs a battery change. I have dried this to the point where it's dry to the touch. So there's nothing on my hand, it's dry to the touch. However, it's still quite warm, actually. Where the texture paste is, not texture paste, modeling paste, flexible modeling paste is what I used. It's still very soft, so that means it's still wet underneath where it's got, you know, where there's layer. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show you the texture. I mean, it feels so cool. I can just say that. But anyway, so I've dried it to the point where I can touch it, but I can't put any like pressure on it. Do you know what I mean? So I am going to set this one aside. Let me see, flip it over. There's the back side that I did. Again, I'm not going to put too much pressure on it because this side is still very much soft. All right, so I'm going to set this one aside, and then I'm going to grab my other one. Here, I'm going to show you. Boop, boop. This one is done on both sides, and it is completely dry. So I just wanted to show you that it's the same thing. Well, no, I just lied. This one I actually did put book pages underneath. But I didn't do it on both sides, nor did I do it on any other sample. I guess I was just testing it out. Well, anyway, it's almost exactly the same. This one does have a little bit of book page under there. So if you like that look with a little bit of text under there, if you end up seeing it in the end, I'm not really sure. We'll find out. I'm sorry about my smoke detector. I don't want to go like turn it off because I feel like what happens if something happens and my smoke detector's turned off. Okay. So the next step, I mean, you know, it's pretty, you could leave it just like this if you would like. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my gesso again, and I'm going to take a new, not that one. Is it this one? Well, either one of these. No, it's this one. I'm just going to take a fresh brush that's a little bit shorter and dry, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to dip into that gesso once again, and then I'm just going to do like dry brush. Gesso on top. Now, it won't stay super bright white. It does fade once it dries, which is kind of one of the reasons why I like using it for this technique. So I'm just dry brushing. Let me scoot in. So I'm just dry brushing. I'm just getting a little bit of paint and dry brushing over top of that surface. And you really need this to be completely dry for this, because one of the things I also like to do, when I say it really needs to be really dry, the cover needs to be dry. One of the things I also like to do is take a baby wipe and just kind of buff it in, the gesso in like that. And it just gives it a whole cool look to it. I don't know how to explain it. You kind of just need to do it and see it in person to know what I'm talking about, but I love doing this, and I love highlighting things with gesso. And sometimes if you want it really bright, just go do it after it dries, go do another layer. And maybe not do it so lightly, you know. So this is just another step you can do if you want, or if you like it just the way it was, that's totally cool too. If it gets to be too much white, then you just take your baby wipe to it and knock it down a notch. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it to all the edges. All the edges. I'm going to do it to the whole book front and back, and I like to hold it like it was shut because it kind of allows you to get the gesso where you need it to be. Let's see why we focus here. Probably just got gesso on my camera. Right, simple, simple. So I'm gonna see the difference there? So I actually kind of did this technique when I showed you how to make an art journal, DIY art journal. I'll try to link that video below as well. But I did this same technique. I just love it. It was one of my first videos on YouTube, or one of my first video sets on YouTube, and I just love it. So the white does make a difference. And of course, if you wanted to lighten up your spray, you could totally do that too, and you could skip this step altogether. But I feel like you're taking away a layer of texture if you do that. I feel like every step makes a difference in the finished product. You know what I mean? All right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it front and back, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've done both sides. There's the inside. There's the outside, and if you wanted to, you could go through and do another layer. I think I did several layers on this, but I concentrated mostly on the edges, but it's super close. You see how it's super close. So I think I did do several layers of gesso on this one, but this one looks pretty good. So I'm gonna leave it just like this. And I almost used all my gesso. Can y'all see that? Is it gonna focus? I got gesso on my monitor. That's so funny. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that brush in the water. Okay, it's good and dry now. So now I'm gonna take a product called Multi Matte Medium. This is by Ranger, and I am gonna seal the entire cover front and back using this product. This has been around for a very long time, and it is one of my most favorite matte mediums that's out there. So I'm gonna have to get another, look, I'm gonna have to get another jar. Can you see that? It's almost empty. Let me grab one really quick before I start. Okay, so now I'm gonna take another brush, and I think I am gonna wet it just a little bit and then take off most of that moisture. I'm using a paper towel. I just didn't want it to be super dry. And I am literally just going to go in and paint this on the entire cover. Now in the past I've done this before, right? Where I've done all of this prep and then I've sealed it with this multi-matte medium. But I meant to tell you, you could have done like a distress ink all the way around the edges, and then when you go to seal it like this with the matte medium, it actually pulls some of that color in, so it makes it look real vintage, and that is a really cool technique. I mean, it makes it look really neat and old. Or you can also, with this particular product, you can also ink it afterwards. This one you can ink right over top of it with no problems. So if you're like, oh man, I wanted to do that, then you can always go back and ink afterwards. Okay, so I'm gonna try to go through and do a thin layer and then flip it over, or dry it, and then do a thin layer on the other side. Gonna get as much as I can out of this jar. All right, that only took a couple minutes, and you can see that it's completely dry. It still might be a little tacky, so it kind of needs time to like cure, per se. So, kind of needs time to cure. So you might have a little bit of tack for a little while. Mine, when I did this one yesterday, I completed this whole thing yesterday, right? So, and look how flexible it is, you guys. I just love this. So, I had done the covers and everything, and I got the pages ready and all of that, and I did the book block, you know, where I sewed all of the pages together, and then I attached the covers to the pages, right? So, I then put the closure on and all of that, and I put my butterfly on there, and I was letting it dry, and then I went back to it about an hour later, and when I opened it up, it was, the front page was kind of like tacked to the cover like that. So I should have left it open or left the covers off for a little while and really let it cure. So what I ended up doing was just leaving it sit open like this overnight, and now it's perfectly fine. There is no sticky, tacky, nothing. And by the way, I wanted to mention that I keep getting asked if I'm going to do a video on how to coffee dye paper. I'm not going to do a coffee dye paper video. There's tons and tons and tons of them on YouTube. So just search up how to coffee dye paper. And if you don't want to coffee dye it yourself, you can purchase it online. There are tons of sellers on Etsy that you can buy already. You know, they coffee dye the paper for you and ship it out to you, so you don't have to make your own. I just really enjoy coffee dye paper. It doesn't even have to be coffee. It could be tea. It could be anything really that will color paper, right? So you can just experiment and do whatever. You could use distress stains, distress inks. You could use your ink pads. I've done that in the past where I've taken my ink pad and squished it onto a mat like this, got it wet, and then drug the pages through there. I used to do that a lot when I would make my journals, my custom journals for Etsy. So anyway, just experiment. If you've got a little bit of free time and you want to play, just experiment with the different things that might dye your paper. That's the same way we dyed the seam binding. Not the seam binding is not dyed, but it's the same thought. You know, you just add some pigment to, like for example, this is a fabric. You know, this is a seam binding. I think it's like a nylon or something. I'm not really sure, but it takes dye really good. The paper does the same thing. Paper sucks it up really fast, but it's pretty cool. So give it a whirl. All right, so we've got the one side, and now we're gonna flip over into the other side. I think I've got as much as I can get out of this jar here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this other one here and use this. Actually, I'm gonna take it out of the lid first. And I'm just gonna plop it on here and then spread it around. So this is the outside of this cover. So I'm actually going to go a little bit heavier handed on the outside because it's going to get more wear and tear. So if I toss it in my purse, it'll be protected. If I've got it outside while I'm sitting outside relaxing and journaling, I can not worry about spilling something on it or leaving it outside and the dew, or if it rains or any of that. It'll be completely protected. No damage will come to my cover. And sometimes I even do 2 coats on the outside because for that exact reason, the outside gets more wear and tear than the inside. So I might do that with this one. I didn't do that with this one, but it's still I put a pretty generous coat on there. But if you do thin layers, like if you do a couple thin layers, it's the same as doing, you know, a thicker, heavy-handed layer. It just takes longer to dry when you do it thicker, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So I think I've pretty much got this covered. And heck, it's almost dry as it is. Let me dry it really quick. Okay, whoops, I didn't even turn the camera off. I might even leave that in. We'll see. I just literally dried it for like a minute with my heat gun. I'm gonna go ahead and go in and do another coat. Okay, so I finished doing my second layer here, and I'm gonna go ahead and, like, on a paper towel, I'm gonna wipe off all of that excess, well, not all of it, as much as I can get off of it before I stick it in the water, because I don't want it to, like, dry up in there. So I'm gonna swish it in the water a minute, and then I'm gonna wipe it up again, and then I'm gonna stick it back in the water until I can actually clean it, because you don't want stuff like that to dry inside your paintbrushes. That will ruin a paintbrush in a heartbeat. So I'm gonna put my lid back on here, and I'm gonna dry this up, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've dried that pretty good. As you can see, I can put a lot of pressure on, but it still has like a little bit of a tack to it. Not much. I mean, it's not, I mean, it might, like when I was blow drying, when I was using my heat gun, the backside wanted to stick on the edges a little bit to this mat, but that's just because it just needs to cure. So this is too light, and look how flexible this is. I just adore this, right? I also wanted to show you, look, here's my prototype for my medium Wanderlust. So it's the same exact size as the template, the medium template. And I think it's a great notebook size. Don't you guys think it's a perfect writing notebook size? I do. Okay, so let me show you. Let me show you the befores. Before, after. So that's the difference between just leaving it like this, or adding the gesso, and then this one obviously does not have the matte medium on it, but this one really needs to dry. Like that modeling paste, it's still kind of smooshy under there. I mean, it's holding its own pretty well. I mean, this side is dry, but it's holding its own pretty well, but it's still definitely smooshy. So this is what it looks like when it's all said and done. It has a slight bit of a sheen, and that's from the matte medium. So if you don't like that, you do not have to use that matte medium. You can skip that step entirely. The India ink that's in this spray, if you use this, is permanent, so you don't have to worry about it coming off. And it, you know, when you spray the whole thing, it pretty much kind of seals it, sort of. And then, you know, you've got the layer of the modeling paste, and then you've got the gesso on top. So you're good to go. You do not have to add that sealer protectant on top. But anyway, before, after. So I wanted to show you that. So now I'm going to move some of this out of the way, some of this mess out of the way. I really need to clean that, you guys. It's not supposed to look like that. That's a cleaner side, but that's what it looks like right now. I need to find a spot to put that. So now let's talk about the pages. Okay, so for this one, I used the coffee dyed paper that my husband and son made for me. So then it kind of makes it even that more special, right? My son helped me out to earn some money to put in the car for gas, you know, gas money. And my husband helped me out just because of the sheer overwhelming amount of work I had going on. And this is a time-consuming process. I am not going to lie. But the results are just beautiful. And again, this is just regular loose leaf paper. Can you see? I'm not even sure if you'll be able to see the lines. It really fades out. I'm hoping you can see a little bit. How about over here? Can you see it over here? Can you see the lines? Anyway, it's really beautiful. So when I cut this down, I have all this left over. Anybody have any ideas for this? I think it's so cool. Look, there's 5 sets. There's 10 sheets in each signature. So I have all this left over. I mean, of course, I can use these in a numerous amount of ways, but I just think it's so cool. Look at all that. I want to make like a little book out of it. What do you think? I think that would be cute because the lines are going this way, so it'd be kind of an odd-shaped book, but it'd be cute. I don't know. Anyway, so I've got all of this left over that I'm not going to throw away. So this one, I used coffee dyed paper and actually used all of the leftover paper that wasn't in an actual kit in this book. I'm pretty sure it was the exact amount. So there's 10 sheets in each signature. There's 5 signatures. That makes 50 sheets. So that makes 100 pages, 200 sides. So I can't wait to start using this. Anyway, so that's what I used in this. And I do have other coffee dyed paper. I have just regular, let me show you. I have just, whoops. Just regular paper. This is, I'm thinking this is like copy paper, except this one might be cream colored copy paper. I don't remember. I think it's cream colored copy paper. So I have this. I could use this. What do we think, you guys? Should I use this? Because I really like the look of this with purple. I had prepared, I already have 5 signatures of this, and it's like a dot grid paper. This is not the Rhodea. Let me find it. This paper, this is not the paper that I got prepared. This one is the Rhodea. Somebody please tell me how to say it. Is white, where this one is kind of cream. Can you see the difference? Let me find the pad. This I got at Hobby Lobby. Fabriano is the brand. Let's see, 85 GSMs. There's 90 sheets. It's A4, made in Italy. I don't know. I just happened upon this just randomly. And this is the leftover that I had to cut off in order to get the size. But I don't know. I'm thinking I want to use this. Since I've already made this one with coffee dye paper, I'm going to use this paper because, well, A, I've already got some prepared. And B, I love the dot grid. And I'm not that familiar with this. It feels the same. Like here's one of my notepads from the Rhodea paper. It feels the same. The dots are more close together in this paper. But I like it. I like it. Yeah. So I think I am going to use this. So let me show you what I did. Look. It's a full sheet. Here's a full sheet that I just tore out of this pad. And I tore 10 sheets out per signature. Since I've already got them all prepared, I'm just going to show you how I did one. Alright, so here's a full sheet that I tore out of the pad. And I tore 10 sheets out at a time. Let me go ahead and get my cutting mat here. And then what I did was I took in the template, whoops, this one likes to shift on me all the time. I took the Traveler's Notebook covers insert for the medium. And on one sheet, I took it and I laid it on here and then drew a sort of a line like that. And then all 10 sheets are in a stack now, all 10. And then I just took my ruler and my craft knife and lined it up to my marks. And then slowly trimmed it like this. So since all 10 sheets are here, I just went like this and over and over and over until all 10 sheets were cut. As long as you go slow and steady, they cut very nicely. So then we have this. So then I flipped it over, the whole 10 sheets. I flipped them over in half, just like that. And then I lined it up once again with my notebook, Traveler's Notebook covers for that size. Lined it up once again and did some markings. Doot, doot, doot. And then I sliced it at that marking. Right inside those marks, I sliced it again. So now I'm going through 20 sheets. And again, you just slowly pass until you get all of them off of there. And you don't really have to press that hard. As long as you're using a good sharp craft knife, you're good to go. So then we end up with something that looks like this. See how it's completely flat and straight on this edge? Top, bottom, everything is even. So that's why I did it that way. Okay, so now I did that to all 5 signatures. So each one of these signatures has 10 sheets of this paper in it, and there's 5 signatures. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take one sheet. I think I'm going to take it out of the middle here. And I'm going to mark it for some holes. So I'm going to use this is a Tim Holtz ruler, and it has the center marking so you can find the center of things. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to find the exact center. Just like that. And I'm going to mark it with my pencil. And then I am going to, it's not quite an inch from the bottom, but I'm going to go about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to mark it at 2.5 and 2.5 on top and bottom. And then I'm going to put this back here inside the middle of the signature. Before I go any further, no, let me grab, I'm just going to grab some paper clips. So before I punch holes, I'm going to take these paper clips and I am going to make sure that these stay together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for all 5. So these are all ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to line this up, make it even. I'm going to get, this is a Tim Holtz Tonic paper piercer, and I'm going to poke through that whole set of pages right in those marks that I made. Right. I'm going to do a little bit of wiggle wiggle. Okay, so I need to remember that this page goes into that signature, but I'm going to set that one there. Let me move something out of the way here. Grab the next signature, take that same page, and poke through. Okay, so I've got everything punched, and I'm going to keep these in order, and I'm going to keep them in the same direction that I punched the holes, just in case I got a little off. And I'm going to put this one back here in the center, like that. And I'm going to put this on top. So now those are ready to go into my book. I did want to make mention that if by chance you are wanting to make bunches of these, it is well worth the time to make you a template. Now, I don't remember what this was from, you guys. It was my son's, and he was getting rid of it. It was a long time ago. But this is what I house all of my templates. These are binding templates. Like I wrote on there, 3 holes, 11 by 6.5, 3 or 5, about 7.5 inch. You know, I wrote on there what exact multicolored sketchbook, 8-inch tall, 8-inch tall, 5 hole. I mean, I just 5 hole shabby chic rustic, 9-inch tall. You know, I just took the time to make all of these templates. And it's just so happened whatever I was making the book out of, my first one, that's the paper that I use, so it really doesn't matter. There's, you know, cream cardstock, there's white cardstock, there's watercolor paper, 9-inch tall watercolor paper, 5-hole album portfolio, what is that, 7 by 9 1/8. There's just a ton of different binding templates in here. So, artist multimedia journal, 5-hole. I even wrote sometimes what the different types of paper that I used in that. Anyway, so actually, is that one this one? No. Anyway, so if you're going to make a bunch of journals, it is worth the time to make templates. Like 5-hole purple watercolor journal. You know, 3-hole, 5 3/8 inch tall. This one went this way. So anyway, it's just worth the time to make. That way you can just go grab your template and poke away, and you don't have to measure every time, especially if you're making the same journal over and over and over again, especially if it's more than just a 2-hole binding. Anyway, it's worth making a template. I just wanted to point that out to you guys. Okay, and I think I'll keep those forever, even if I never use those templates ever again, because I used them a ton when I was making custom journals. Okay, So now we need to get this into the book somehow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler once again, and I'm going to use a Sharpie. And then, actually no, I'm going to use a pencil first. So what I'm going to try to do is, I'm going to go right inside. I can't see. I need my glasses. I'm going to go right inside. So here is the score and here is the score. Let me scoot in. You'll be able to see it better if I scoot you in. Okay, so here's the score and here's the score. And here's the score for the spine. Now I'm going to try to find the middle. And it's hard because there's a glare. Can't get my head over top of it. It's hard to see. So I think that's about it right there. So I'm just going to make like a little dash. And then before I move it, I'm going to go down to that 2.5 mark. And I'm going to make another little dash. And then 2.5 mark up here. Make another little dash. So if you wanted to, you'd maybe in the inside of your spine, maybe not use the texture paste so heavy if you want. To me, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I've got those marks. So then I'm gonna make sure I know where I'm putting this. I'm gonna bring this up here, and I'm gonna go back to the center as best I can. And I'm going to put a dash right below that score mark, the 0, the 2.5 on both ends. So I'm going to do a 3-hole binding. So I'm going to turn it this way. And again, the glare, it's going to be hard to see. I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to try to find the center. Oh goodness, I can't see. Okay, for the sake of my eyes in this video, I am going to mark it with my Sharpie. I cannot see, so I'm just going to put a dot. I think my glare from my lights are making it impossible for me to see. So I just put little black dots. Hopefully I'll be able to see better now. Alright, so now I'm going to go from spine to spine. Spine to spine, score mark to score mark, and I'm going to find the center that way. And then I'm going to mark a center hole. So that's my center. And then now I need to figure out, because there's 5 signatures, so I need to figure out where the other holes need to be. Okay, so I'm basically going to equally space these signatures apart. So I've got my center marked, and then I'm going to go right inside of the score mark, which is about a 1/2 inch in my case, and then I'm going to go at the 1/4 inch mark, and I'm currently just using the metal tip of my pencil to kind of like mark that. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to move it up to the center here. Same thing, and then come up to the top, and then center it again. If I could get my head over top of this, I would feel better, but I can't. So we're just going to deal here. So I'm going to hit center, 1/4, 1/2, and 1/4, 1/2. So let's see how good I did. It's hard to tell if it's straight or not because the covers aren't straight, you know, because we've done the whole jaggedness. And it's going to be hard for you to see those little marks that I made. But now we need to poke the holes. I'm going to find my, oh, this will work. No, I'm going to use mine, not that one. I'm going to use, ooh, what do I got over there? I'm going to use the smaller one, and I'm going to, it's just 2 layers of 1/4 inch of fun foam. I'm going to take my pokey, actually I'm going to take it down just a little bit, And I'm going to poke all the way through all 5 of these holes. Oh, I made too many markings there. And I'm not going to worry about whether or not they're in a straight line or not. So I'm going through the entire cover. That's not too bad. And I think I'm going to flip it over too and poke once again. I want to make sure my needle will go through. It's a little wonky. But alright, so I'm going to go ahead and poke all of these holes. I mean, can you believe how soft this cover is? I mean, it's amazing. Okay, so now I've got all my holes punched. At least I think I do. And they're not perfect, and that's okay. You need to take more time. Oops, did I get Sharpie on there? You'll need to take more time. You'll be able to get over top of it and see better than I can. You won't have all these studio lights on like I do. Alright, so next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to attach the signatures into the cover. So I've just got a needle here. Nothing fancy. It's not a bookbinding needle. I'm not a professional bookbinder, so I can't, you know, I can't give you the perfect needle to use. Just use what you have. This one just has a big enough eye for me to get the crochet thread through. And again, I am not a bookbinder. You can always use waxed linen thread. I just prefer to use crochet thread myself. It works just fine for me because in the end I'm going to go ahead and seal those threads on the outside of this cover, so I'm not too concerned about whether or not it's going to hold. I've never had any trouble before. I'm like, for example, this one, that's crochet thread. It's just brown crochet thread. Oops, can't see it. And this one is how many years old? This one is 5 years old, and I have used this sucker, and it's gotten wet, and I've actually got it wet after I sewed. Oh, this is a perfect example. I know I'm super close in, where I took distress stain or ink, it doesn't matter, whatever you have, and I got it wet, and I ran, actually with this one I used a paintbrush, and I dipped it in the wet stain and brushed it on to make the edges look distressed. I've taken the distress stain bottle itself and on the edges. You can do that as well. But anyway, so the crochet thread seems to hold up just fine for me. But if you want to do that little extra something, go ahead and use wax linen. So I'm just going to get a good amount. We're going to sew each one of these in individually, so you don't need enough thread to sew them all. So just get you some. And then I am going to thread my needle. This in itself can be a challenge, and I took my glasses off. There we go. So there's no need to do a knot at all. I feel like I might be too close in. Let me scoot back just a hair. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to take my first signature, and I'm going to start at the holes that are closest to me. And I'm going to go through the center of the signature, just like that. Then I'm going to go through the center hole in the covers, right? And I'm going to come out the outside. I'm going to go down to the bottom hole of the covers, and then I'm going to go through the bottom hole of the signature, just like that. Then we're going to go all the way to the top. Go out the signature and out, whoops, out the holes on the cover, like so. And then we're going to go back in that center hole of the cover, back through the center hole of the signature, and oops. And this is the one, this is the part where it gets slightly tricky. There we go. And when you pull your needle back out, you need to have it on one side of that center thread there, and the tail is on the other. So the center thread is right there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the needle. So then you want to take a minute and you want to make sure it's secure in there and that there's no loosey-goosey thread on the outside. And so you want to tug a little this way, a little that way. Then you want to go ahead and tie a knot. You can do 2 or 3 knots, it does not matter. Just want to tie a knot, and then you want to cut the excess off. You can come back in the end and glue that little dot as long as you're satisfied with the way everything looks. So now I'm going to take those paper clips off of there, and I'm going to keep the whole signature together with them. So now we've got one of the signatures sewn into the book. Can you see the string on the outside there? So with this case, it doesn't really matter which is up and which is down, which is front and which is back. So you can choose that at the end. So the next thing you want to do is I'm going to get some more thread. If you put a bunch of thread on your needle, you won't have to do this every time, but it's also a little bit of a pain. So I would rather just thread my needle each time. Again, take the next signature, keeping it the same way that it was in the stack, going through the center, going to the next set of holes. Whoops, you don't want to lose that tail. Whoop, almost pulled it right out. Going down to the bottom hole there in the cover, through the bottom hole in the signature, and then go all the way up to the top hole of the signature and the top hole of the cover. And then go back through the center hole of the cover and the center hole of the signature without going through the thread that's already through that hole. And then you want to give it a little tighten that way, tighten this way, make sure there's no loosey-gooseys anywhere, and tie a knot. And then cut off the excess. So now we have 2 signatures that are inside the book. So you can do this with however many signatures you want. This is just what happened to fit inside of the covers that I made. So there's now 2 in there. All right, so now I'm gonna continue on adding all of these signatures the exact same way, and then I'll be back. Okay, I've got them all sewn in. It's going to be hard for you to see. All 5 signatures are sewn in into here. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of those paper clips. So there you got that. All 5 signatures are now in this book. And do you see how flexible this sucker is? I mean, this sucker is... Oh, I wanted to show you guys. I was showing you guys how flexible this sucker is, right? This is actually thicker chipboard. This is like heavyweight chipboard. Let me show you the difference. Let me get a piece of the heavyweight and a piece of the stuff we just used. If I can find it. I just had it. Here it is. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the difference, but this is like super, super thin. It's almost razor thin. And then this thicker one right here, that's what this one is made out of. And it's still super flexible. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that this process seems to really make soft covers. So there's that. Let me move my needle. All right, so now I want to take a minute. I want to decide, I think I'm just going to leave those. I could take my ink and just go right over top of that. But I think what I'm going to do is just leave it, and I'm going to put some of this multi-matte medium. I'm just going to use my finger too. And I'm just going to wipe it along the edges here. Finger painting. I'm kind of moving the strings around a little bit. Alright, I'm going to dry that real quick. Alright, I think I've got that pretty good and dry. I'm digging it. I am loving it. Loving it. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is going to add a closure. We're going to do it just like this. Closure. This butterfly came from the Shabby Chic Treasures Prima butterflies. I don't know if they're still available. These were from forever ago. There's usually a date somewhere. 2014. So these are kind of old, but I'm not going to use the Prima ones for this journal. I think I have a rusted one in here, and that's what I'm going to use. Yep, right there. It's not super rusted, but it's definitely rusted. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to use seam binding. The same seam binding. It's cream. It's cream and it's crinkled. Crinkled cream. This is straight from the roll of Hug Snug seam binding. This is a cream color, but you use whatever color you have, or if you have white, make your own. Make your own custom seam binding. I have a video on that too. I'll link that below as well if you're interested. And I'm just gonna, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold it in half, sort of. Kind of fold it in half. I'm going to wrap it around this journal like this. Stretch it out and see if it's not 100% perfect. That's fine. So I'm going to try to get it in the center here, like that. And then I'm going to take a dab of Fabri-Tac by Beacon. Fabri-Tac by Beacon. I'm going to put a little dab here in the center where I think I'm going to put my butterfly. And I'm going to lay this down over top of it. Like that. Where's a clip? I need a clip. I'm just going to hold this on here with a clip really fast. Just so it doesn't like move while I get my butterfly ready. Well, there we go. And then I'm going to put some glue on the backside of my butterfly. This butterfly is a Tim Holtz butterfly. We're going to be using this when we make the Misty Rose Wanderlust mini album. Which way do I want this to go? Let's go this way. We're going to be using those butterflies in that album we're going to be making. It's the one we made at Madecon, so it'll be, I'll show you. It'll be this one. This will be the Misty Rose by Prima. Also, see, it's a set of 6 butterflies, so there's 6 different butterflies. I also wanted to tell you guys that I know that Prima has come out with 3 new paper collections. They're not coming to me at the Georgia Blues, Lavender Frost, and Moonchild, I think. However, I'm not going to be using any of those paper collections because we're going to be using the Flirty Fleur for the small Wanderlust. We're going to be using the Misty Rose by Prima, both of these by Prima, with another large Wanderlust. And we're also going to be using the Santa Baby by Prima for the Christmas album. These all 3 were made at Madecon. So I am not going to be buying any of the other 3 paper collections, so I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I didn't want you to try to scramble to get it thinking we were going to make something with it, because we're not going to be using that. I just kind of wanted to let you know. Not that I have anything against those paper collections. I'm sure they're beautiful, but I'm not even going to purchase them myself, so I don't want you to run out and get them thinking I'm going to use it in one of my future projects. So by the time we get done with most of all of these, they'll probably have another set of paper lines that they're going to come out with. So anyway, so I'm just going to hold this on here until I feel like it's good and secure. And then I am going to tie this in a bow. You know, I kind of feel like I want to tuck, whoa, I got a little tight on the bow. I want to tuck some of this seam binding under the butterfly a little bit. So I'm just going to reach under there with a pokey tool and like shove it under there. Okay, so what do you guys think? Do we like? So obviously I wanted to point out that you can also make this in the small. You don't have to make it in the large or the medium. You can totally make it in the small. You can make it like this, the Coptic stitch, by following numerous videos out there, or you can go to my Southern Charm video. I think I actually did another one where I did the Coptic stitch. Maybe I'll try to find that one too. All of these things are linked in the description box below. I get a lot of comments asking about things that I actually state in the video, or they're in the description box below. So I get a lot of comments asking me about certain things, where to find it, where's the video, where's the templates, where's this, where's that. And first I just want to say, I read all my comments. I try to answer my comments. I try to answer all of them. I realize that's an impossible task. I try to answer them as quickly as possible, but that also is an impossible task. So if you don't get an answer right away, or even before you make that comment and ask that question, maybe if you check the description box, you will find the answer that you're looking for. A lot of times it's things that I've stated in the video already, so that happens a lot too, and it just gets overlooked. You get distracted while you're watching the video or something, and you just don't hear that information. But a lot of times the information is already there for you. It would just help me out. When it comes to answering all of my comments. You know, people get upset with me. Like I have a lady that's upset with me right now because I didn't answer a comment while I was at Maidacon. I didn't answer any comments while I was at Maidacon. I was working 16 hours a day while I was at Maidacon, and that, you know, I can't answer comments when I'm working that much and getting hardly any sleep at all. So unfortunately, someone did get mad at me and is no longer, you know, following me or part of my community. And that's very sad. I try to do the best I can, but again, I'm just one person. I don't have a staff. I don't have a big company behind me. It's just me. I do everything myself. Thank goodness my mom helps me with Facebook. There is no way I would be able to do everything that I do, plus manage the Facebook group, because there's a huge community over there as well. We have over 8,000 members in my group, and I love my Facebook group. I love everything about it. I love the pictures. I love the stories. I love the funny stuff that people put on about their projects. It's just a really great way to connect with you guys. And I love it. I love seeing all of your projects. So if you're not a member of my Facebook group and you want to be, please feel free. I'll leave a link below. All you have to do is request to join, and my mom will make sure you're a person, and she will accept you into the group. Anyway, it's just a really great place, and we try to keep it as positive and as stress-free as possible, which means we have to every once in a while delete things. It's not a selling group. It's not a it's not an advertising group. You know, you're not allowed to sell anything on my group. You're not allowed to post links. You're not allowed to advertise anything else. It's just to share your projects and to talk about your journey when you're making your projects and all of that. So, you know, we do have to delete things on occasion, and luckily my mom does most of that for me, because I hate doing that. But anyway, it's a great, positive place to be, and I really do enjoy my Facebook group. I enjoy all of the pictures that you guys share of your projects. So that kind of brings me back to my point of why I made these in the first place. I made myself some writing journals so that I can do brain dumps in here. I can just write and write and write. It doesn't even have to make sense. It doesn't have to be pretty. I want the journal to be pretty. I want this to be nice to look at, because I feel like if it's not, I won't pick it up and use it. And I left it as plain as possible so that I wouldn't be concerned about using the paper in here. If I wanted to, if I messed up a page in here, I can just rip it out. No big deal. This is not going to be seen by anybody but me. Because sometimes you just need to take out your frustrations, or you just need to take, you know, and write down everything that's upsetting you at that time so that you can let it go. And that's what I'm really needing right now. You know, I get frustrated just like all of you all do. I have a family. I have responsibilities outside of my business, and I get frustrated, and I get things in my life that are hard to handle, hard to deal with, and I just need somewhere that I can go, that I can just unleash all of my frustrations onto this paper and be okay with that. I'm not taking it out on anyone else. I can't just, release my frustration out on the person that's upset me. Here lately I've been getting really hateful messages, really bad, mean, hateful messages. And I'm just going to say this because I feel like it needs to be said. It is not okay. It is not okay to sit behind a keyboard and send someone a message and just be mean. It is not okay. And so I'm not going to respond to those types of messages anymore. I just can't believe that people think that that's okay. It's not okay. So those types of things, I'm just going to get rid of those types of things in my life, those types of people in my life, those types of people that try to drag me down. I am just done with it. And I think this is a great place to start, where I can just, my frustration can go straight to this page. I don't have to take it out on my husband. I don't have to take it out on my kids. I don't have to take it out on my house. I don't have to take it out on any of you. It's just a good place where I can just dump all that in and be done with it. So that's what I'm going to start doing. And I hope you guys try this for yourself. And if you need some place to dump all of your, do a brain dump where you don't have to worry about it, make yourself a journal. Make yourself something that is beautiful, that you want to pick up, that you want to touch, that you want to hold, and just let go and just put all of your thoughts inside of that journal. I'm feeling like it's going to be extremely therapeutic for me, and I might even, as soon as I get done editing this video, I might even start writing stuff down in it. So anyways, all of that. I love you guys. I love my community. I love my subscribers. I love my Facebook group people. I really enjoy the connection. I enjoy the classes that I've been able to do lately, the one-on-one classes with you guys. Those have been so awesome. It's so nice to see faces with names. And so enough rambling. Let me know what you think about this video. If you enjoyed this process, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to look for that secret coupon code. Again, some people say if you turn me off, like the sound off, like you're not listening to me talk, you can focus better on where it will pop up. But it's only going to be good for the rest of this day, as long as I get it up today, and all day tomorrow. So I will have those exact dates and times in the description box below if you're curious. Don't ask for the code. Don't share the code. If I see it in the comments or in my Facebook group or anywhere, I will deactivate the code. It's meant to be fun. It is hard, but I'm not going to make it so super hard. But if you've been waiting to buy these templates for this coupon code, here it is. I can't guarantee when the next one will be, but it will be in this video somewhere. Okay, so good luck. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, go ahead and hit this little circle right there. Make sure that you hit the bell icon for notifications. And here's a link to my Etsy shop if you're interested in the templates. And then up here are some videos that you may want to check out. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.